I see at this moment Romania as an economy, as one of these what used to be the tigers, you know, what Malaysia used to be in the Southeast Asian ecosystem, and before that Singapore.
We are self-starters, so you know we can overcome those knowledge gaps by just connecting ourselves as much as possible with the outside communities.
I hope it can come from tech, because tech is our original, let's say, source of value. We are engineers by nature, from the communist times, from before that.
Every movie is like a startup. And the director or the screenwriter, or they put people, the same person, it's like a founder.
There is no exact date when the Romanian startup ecosystem was born. Some may say even in the early days of capitalism after the fall of the communist regime. Some may say that those were the years of the hustlers, the modern rich Romanian oligarchs. But one thing is sure, slowly a generation of modern entrepreneurs was born.
They were the people who studied in communist schools and universities to be engineers, teachers, employees, and after the revolution they started working for themselves. They lived in a country that still valued the safety net brought by school and a cushy job offered by the state. One that was barely getting its first dip into capitalism and had an economy that had major fluctuations. There were no models around them, just motivation. There were no Silicon Valley garages just yet.
When it started, there was not such thing like private property or private companies. We were among the first to, let's say, build private companies. And the connection with the Western world was a weak one. So eventually models could have been Leonardo da Vinci or big mathematicians like Gauss and so on, but no modern ones.
Against the odds, these people soon came to understand that their work could bring value and shape a new economy for Romania. Some of them grew and sold their companies to bigger players and started a new journey. They grew people, teams, managers, and other future startup founders. It took us almost 20 years since the revolution for words like startups and scale-ups, angel investors, venture capital to get into our vocabulary. Later on, we learned a new word, unicorn.
We are in a sort of third stage of entrepreneurship in Romania. The first stage was 1990. In 1990, people who were sort of transitioning from big state companies just decided to, spin off part of their activity. And some of them are present right now. Because 30 years, the local environment thrives on pure resilience. One-man show, having one great idea, doing one heroic journey, achieving one fantastic milestone.
Radu Georgescu was one of the first entrepreneurs that saw the potential for a tech company even in the early days of internet access in Romania. Florin and Mariuca Talpeș followed in 2001 with the creation of Bitdefender. At that point, it wasn't even regarded as a startup. We began to talk about startups in Romania around 2005, 2008, when the internet really kicked off here and the younger generation started to apply the entrepreneurial models they saw abroad and especially in the US.
Those founders are now investors, serial entrepreneurs, mentors for the new generation of startups and founders. One that is connected to the global ecosystem, one that multiplies.
Being an entrepreneur is no longer sort of a shame tag that inherently means you were doing something dodgy in relationship with the government or in relationship with some opportunities. But it kind of became the opposite of that. It became a sort of hero thing.
Today, the Romanian startup ecosystem has more than 2,500 companies and the country is fifth in the CEE region by VC funding raised in 2022.
Romanians applied resilience and hard work to the gaps in the economy, and we added new names to our Hall of Fame gallery. Gica Hagi, Nadia Comăneci, Daniel Dines.
You can't put the passion, the sweat and the tears in an Excel. This is their story. The founders, the investors, the entrepreneurs. The winners, the losers, the big names and the forgotten ones, those who made it and those who will try again. After the fall of the communist regime in December '89, few knew how to do business. It was a virgin land. Romanians went to Turkey and bought everything that could fit in a small trunk. Then they started to sell anything they could in consignații, small shops where you could find anything from TVs to VCRs, stereos to jeans, leather jackets, gold and sweets. Some of them had a real flair for business and made their first real money bringing those goods over the borders. They became the so-called cardboard millionaires.
During the communist years, you only prepared for a job that was provided by the state, most likely in a factory somewhere. For some people, this was never an option.
When I was 12 or 13, I think, obviously during the period before revolution, they brought us to on Pipera's platform in a company that was doing circuits for television. And there was a guy that 8 hours a day, he'll take a piece from here, put it on his table, pull a lever and put it in a basket here. And for me it was really mind-blowing. I mean, I was like, I couldn't do that for 8 hours a day.
He went on to create a software company and to become one of the first angel investors in Romania. He is not the only one that saw a different future after the revolution. Radu Georgescu, Andrei Pitiș, Andrei Dudoiu, Ionuț Pătrăhău, Dan Mihăescu, Ilinca Păun, Carmen Sebe, Marius Ghenea.
After I came back from Silicon Valley and I had a lot of experience in making a company from zero to a very important international company, and more important in international sales and business development, because that was something and still is something that is, as a knowledge, is very important. A lot of startups, they came to me for mentorship.
Until the revolution, Florin and Mariuca Talpeș worked at the Institute for Numerical Analysis in Bucharest.
They were among the first entrepreneurs after '89 who envisioned that Romania could grow through technology. In 1990, they started SoftWin, a business that 11 years later became synonymous with one of their best products, Bitdefender.
So at that time, nobody was talking about technology or software, domain in which he used to work, technology. Everyone was looking to more fundamental problems. However, at that time, Romania was equipped with, I should say, a significant pool of very talented people working in tech, and the domestic market collapsed. And instead of migrating, so leaving Romania, we have decided to start something.
Marius Ghenea was in his third year of college in '89. He quickly realized that entrepreneurship could be the road worth taking, especially since he was working since college as a part-time tour guide and began to come into contact with foreign tourists that brought with them the wind of change.
I got employed by the electricity network of Romania, the state-owned Renel. That was very clear for me when maybe a week after getting employed, I had this first conversation, more, how should I say, structured conversation with my boss, who was 25 older than me. So I said if at 50 I would be in his shoes, because I would probably follow this career path, and when he goes to retirement I would take his place.
He got together with some former colleagues and went on to create Flamingo Computers, one of the first computer distributors in Romania.
A risky and reckless endeavor, as his family considered, much like the families of the other first-time tech entrepreneurs at that time. For example, Radu Georgescu.
My mother and dad almost got scared that I've got money from nothing, and creating a company, again, it's back in '92, so very, very early days. It felt at that time like Bișniță as opposed to business, right? It felt that it's abnormal to do business, but it was amazing, and I learned a lot. I learned how to negotiate a contract.
He was in his final years in college, studying to be a mechanical engineer. Before the 90s, he had no idea about computers, but as soon as he saw them, and especially their potential, he realized that his career will be tied to them.
With a computer, you work for free for like 10 hours to create the software, and then it was you enter data, print, enter data, print, enter data, print. So changing completely the linear revenue growth, selling minutes, into a J-curve where you invest time and effort, and then there's the exponential growth that makes all the difference. And I got in love with computers because of this.
Radu was among the lucky ones, having a professor that introduced him to the world of computers, as well as many of his colleagues. But building a business in the 90s in Romania was not an easy thing to do.
First, let's mention all those crazy things that you had to navigate. Things were really changing overnight in the 90s, and not necessarily in the good sense. You know, in a matter of weeks, I think it was January 1997 or 1998. So during that month of January, I think the exchange rate went from 3,000 to 9,000, something like that. So
back in 96, if you can imagine, we were selling the antivirus over a very young internet. And the way to get money from people's credit cards was they were actually sending an email with a credit card's details. That's what actually brought me in the fintech and payments thing, that brought me to e-payment and Avantgate and so on later in the day.
The private companies at the beginnings simply did not have the right to open a bank account. So it was a little bit strange, because we had to get the bag with the cash from France to Romania.
They were among the trailblazers, the ones that started it all. You could call them the first real Romanian startup founders, if at that point in time we knew about this concept.
Talpeș, now 67 years old, still manages Bitdefender, a business with clients in 170 countries, and he plans to list on the New York Stock Exchange.
We filed in December 2021 with SEC, and specifically we filed with NASDAQ. Tech, it's mainly global, global market, a globalized market. You need headquarters skills and knowledge. In our case, to build, let's say, a better chance for the Romanian startups to succeed, they have also to find here skills and knowledge on how to go successfully on the global markets.
Gena sold Flamingo and went on to create more businesses and be involved in more than 40 enterprises over time. He is now the managing partner for Catalyst Romania, the first VC born in our country.
An exit from a company does not mean that the company ends its lifetime. You know, in the case of Flamingo, eventually the company went IPO, so it was the first successful IPO of an IT distribution company on the Bucharest Stock Exchange.
Georgescu sold RAV to Microsoft. Then he started more than 30 companies. He became a venture capitalist. He created GCAD Ventures and is a managing partner in Seedblink, a platform that helps tech founders raise funds.
Microsoft decided that out of all security companies in the world, and there were a few, right? RAV Antivirus was the best suited for them to start a security business. It's really, really amazing and rewarding.
The exit was followed by another international success in 2010 when Naspers acquired the online payments solution GCAD, later transformed into PayU Romania. 2013 marked the third international exit of Radu Georgescu, when private equity fund Francisco Partners entered into Avantgate and brought the company to another level.
With Radu Georgescu, Marius Ghena and Florin Talpeș, the tech models with Romanian roots appeared and ushered in a new decade for the local tech industry. They were the first wave.
Slowly, Romania was more and more present on the international map of tech giants. The first outsourcing companies appeared, building software for clients from the US and Europe, and also the first digital agencies.
Dorin Boierescu. His name is synonymous with the affiliate marketing in Romania. Dorin has over 2 decades of experience in digital and technology. Before leading to Performant, he was a co-founder in various advertising companies in the local market.
I did a lot of things for several years until I discovered advertising and marketing. Actually, it was in 1994, and I found a job at an advertising agency in the Polytechnic campus in 1996. Actually, I started my own agency. I was 23 years old. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, about capital, hiring people, having a company. But it was amazing to see that the market was so empty that almost anything you would have done would reach the clients.
While building his agency, Dorin saw and followed all the international digital trends that were starting to appear and the opportunities they brought.
I discovered Google AdWords in 2004, and it was like, again, something that I couldn't wrap my mind around it. So it was like, okay, so we pay only for the people who are searching something, and only if they click on it? Are you crazy? We have to sell this. I mean,
Dorin considers himself lucky to be among the first to understand the way in which the internet could shape the world. Instantaneous communication and infinite access to information, as well as a new digital generation of professionals that understood digitalization.
Dorin joins the company Două Parale, the future to Performant, in 2009, and later buys 80% of the business together with a business angel.
It's the first company that I haven't started myself. Someone else in the room saw the potential. Vlad Stan from Seed Money financed the company, the start actually of the company, and several months later I met with Radu, with the founder, and I understood actually that it's a quite cool idea. I helped him to get clients, get partners.
A period of accelerated development for the company follows, with significant investment.
The best chances are to have to build a local player and to sell it after 2 or 3 years to an international player, because I knew that e-commerce was going to grow a lot.
To Performant posted in 2022 a turnover of 35.1 million lei, a 36% increase compared to the previous year. But getting to this level wasn't an easy ride for Dorin and his team.
It was late at night, I was at the office, nobody else was there, and I was really in a dark place. I didn't have money to pay the salaries, I had some problem. I had a lot of problems. It was really hard. And I thought, well, Dorin, you are living your dream, you know. Yes, you have a tech company, quite big. Right now you are market leader.
It was hard also when trying to raise money for the development of the company. Dorin was among the first founders that went pitching to the first dedicated events in Romania.
The early days of the entire ecosystem, nobody knew what they were doing. I mean, not the angel investors, not the, events organizer. The VC funds were almost inexistent. I was really lucky to have another angel investor, Sergiu Neguț. After my pitch in 2012, looking back, I don't know what would have happened to my company without that.
Nowadays, To Performant is the leader of the affiliate marketing market in Romania, listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange as of December 9, 2020.
I watched recently my pitch from 2012, and I was surprised how similar is the vision from then to what we do now and to the current vision.
And with the new businesses that the Romanian tech entrepreneurs are building, a generation of tech managers was born. They learned firsthand how to grow tech companies, they had the knowledge and started having money to build new ventures and to help others get on this road. They were the angels.
Alongside them, the late 80s and 90s kids, the one that discovered the dial-up internet, understood the potential of starting their own projects, not just trying to get jobs.
One of them is Vladimir Wane, a dorky kid from Vâlcea. He got the taste for technology reading the history, adventure and science fiction books from his father's library back home.
I mean, for a poor kid living in the 90s, I mean, we had no idea Apple computers existed. We had no idea about the history. But once the internet happened, yeah, that kind of got my appetite for exploring this new technology. So I started doing like websites and, I don't know, participating in all these forums and stuff like that.
But what would turn out to be the event that would shape up his future as a startup founder happened during his first year of college.
When Radu Georgescu, famous for, I don't know, selling an antivirus product to Microsoft, came to talk to our university. And he had a very entertaining discussion about starting this company and then selling it to Microsoft and meeting Bill Gates and Ballmer and like all sorts of like things that happening at the Microsoft headquarters.
Until co-founding Uberview in 2007, one of the first all-in-one social media services in the world, he tried his hand in other projects started in college, having in mind the mission to fix problems using the power of technology. But he encountered the jungle of bureaucracy.
We realized that the problem has nothing to do with technology. It was just, I don't know, corruption. The lack of transparency was not a bug, was a feature.
Still in the early 2000s, alongside other colleagues with the same vision of doing tech projects, he created an agency that started to develop software products.
There was video with early YouTube and Vimeo. I don't know, those were popping up in the 2007 period. So we thought, like, looking at this user-generated content era, we thought, man, like, why would anyone want to publish stuff on their website? So we started to think of what would content management look like in a distributed fashion.
The idea for Uberview changed at an event in Amsterdam when Robert Scoble, at that time the chief evangelist for Microsoft and one of the first bloggers and podcasters in the US, came to their booth and presented them with the problem. Not a lot of people actually produce content.
We pivoted, although we had no idea what that term was. We kind of pivoted to, reading and understanding, scrolling the web, rather than, helping to publish to all those platforms. And so, yeah, we decided, like, we have to go west. Yeah, let's go west. Romania is doomed. They are 10 years behind our genius.
Although far away, getting into Y Combinator was something that Vladimir thought it was worth doing. Unfortunately, the batch had already closed for the year, so they turned to a similar program that was just starting in Europe, SeedCamp.
3 days to go until they closed the application. Like, oh yeah, finally someone to talk to. And yeah, that's kind of how Uberview started.
SeedCamp gave Vladimir and Uberview the courage to go on, even though they were launching a startup during the great crash of 2008-2009.
I was sitting across the Thames from Canary Wharf, which was the financial district in London. It still is. And I noticed that some people were putting down signs of Lehman Brothers. They were, climbing on the skyscrapers and putting the sign down. Lehman Brothers, they were taking it down.
In 2014, Vladimir Wane became one of the first startup founders from his generation that sold his company. Canadian giant Hootsuite acquires Uberview in a transaction estimated between $15 to $20 million.
When I was young, my dad used to say that calling yourself entrepreneur is stupid because it's such a dirty word. Like, so you're an unemployed person with some ideas. Like, why would you advertise that? Now it's cool.
Nowadays, Vladimir is a serial entrepreneur who loves to build useful products and likes to get involved with many early stage endeavors around the world, as proven by his advisory role in many international startups and his numerous conference speaking engagements. He's also the CEO of DeepStash, a knowledge platform that delivers expertly curated and bite-sized ideas from any online article or source on any device.
Yeah, there were no startups. I mean, like, yeah, probably what we did, I don't know, showed a bunch of other folks that you shouldn't look at geography as some sort of a prison. Yeah, I guess we destroyed some sort of like a prejudice or some self-doubt.
George Lemnaru is a Romanian serial entrepreneur with experience in social games that gamify communities. He was the founder of naturaplan.ro, the first online health shop in Romania, and eRepublic.com, a multiplayer global strategy game.
He had no idea about how to write code, but learned by doing. He wanted to build a mobile shop.
Might never build an online health shop in my life, but let's do it. It was very exciting because I knew nothing and I had to do everything alone.
His next venture was one that combined his love for databases with his newly acquired skills in business and coding. He wanted to build a macroeconomical simulation game. When this project began to take shape, George decided to move his attention to what became eRepublic. It was late 2006, early 2007. In short, eRepublic is a browser-based social strategy game that allows its users to interact with other players in building new worlds and geopolitical alliances.
I wanted to build, first of all, a macroeconomical simulation. I had no idea about gaming. I played some games, but I didn't know how to build a game. So it evolved naturally.
Naturally came also the need for an investment, but nobody knew about this in startups in Romania. It was a novelty. George got his first investment for developing a gaming startup from someone who wanted at first to fund his online health company.
There are two problems. First of all, I had no experience on getting investment, and second of all, also the industry was not very developed. By a chain of events, I managed to get investment from outside, from a foreign investor for eRepublic.
In the 6 years George spent developing eRepublic, he managed to raise around 3 million euros for a project that gathered around it a community of approximately 4 million registered users. He then decided to build Green Horse Games, a company he sold in 2021 to Miniclip. He is still the CEO of the company.
I love so much what I'm doing. I worked so much to have this team. I love working with them. There's no reason for me to think about a new startup.
Green Horse Games was one of the first angel investments in Romania. Mălin Ștefănescu was one of the pioneers, alongside Radu Georgescu, Andrei Pitiș, and a few other first tech entrepreneurs and managers that got cash and became more acquainted with the startup ecosystems outside our borders.
But I told him, listen, I have no experience whatsoever, so I mean, I would invest, but I need somebody else to come along because I don't know what to do and I don't know what to ask and I don't know how to get involved and how much and, you know, all these kind of things. And he agreed.
We started talking. We started to realize that we're speaking the same language, and he supported us from the start until the moment when we had a deal with Miniclip. So he was always close to us.
But in the early days of angel investments in Romania, knowledge and trust were scarce. Although everyone pushed towards the same goal, differences of opinions were not unusual.
So within a month, they decided to drop the game, to give up on the game, and to develop a new game. And I was like, it was a good experience because I said quite seriously that I don't agree with that. So I think it's too risky and I don't agree. But I told George at the time, I said, okay, I don't agree, but you're the CEO, so you will decide.
In 2015, Green Horse Games got financed by Catalyst Romania. The valuation of Green Horse Games was estimated at that time at 3 million euros. A new decade for Romanian startups and their founders was opening up.
In 2008, there was this guy Vlad, that launched something that was unheard in Romania, investment fund for online companies. I think that was an important event. I think that was a standard that afterwards it was started to be followed by more and more investors.
That year, I think in May or in June, it was the first time that we put together this event called Venture Connect, which was aiming at connecting, as you know, as the name says, investors and startups.
Ana Maria Andronic was working as a business lawyer in the late 2000s, specializing in intellectual property. She finished her master's degree in intellectual property in the US and worked for a local law firm. She wanted to apply what she learned in the US also in Romania. That was the moment when the lawyer met the tech industry.
That was the moment when I got in touch with a company who was receiving the first venture capital type of investment in Romania, and that company was Green Horse Games. And I think that was the moment. That was the moment when I realized that as a lawyer, as a, let's say, tech lawyer, you are at the crossroads between companies who are seeking investments and investors who are seeking good companies to invest. And that's when I met George Lemnaru, the founder of Green Horse Games, and I really think he felt like I was the worst enemy that he could ever see in his life, because I kept asking questions, you know, like how do you protect the source code, you know, who works on the source code, where is it stored, do you have, I don't know, procedures, confidentiality agreements. And right after the transaction with the Green Horse Games, I felt like I just have been born, you know. So I decided to reach out to the people who were the pillars of the industry at that moment.
Her emails didn't fall on deaf ears. Radu Georgescu, Marius Ghenea, Peter Barta, Dragoș Roa were the first to say yes to the idea of an event for Romanian startup founders.
And when the first events happened that brought together the newly startup founders, the tech enthusiasts with, by now, the more experienced IT owners, the angels and the first venture capitalists, the VCs from outside Romania that stood in the same room and started talking.
In my mind, the event would be very, I don't know, sparkling, you know, like people talking to each other, like you would see an event today. And we could barely select 10 startups to pitch. And we had like 50 people in the room. Nobody asked any questions after the pitch. It was a total silence. They didn't talk to each other. They were like sitting there, you know, the entrepreneurs at their table and the investors at their table. And then we realized that we need to help the community even more, and to explain to them what an event like this is. It's a networking event. It's an event where you as an entrepreneur go to the investor.
With Venture Connect, startups and tech companies from Romania started to accelerate their growth. They met the right people. If not for investments, at least for mentoring. They got the first connections. They were not alone anymore.
For example, BitNet Systems, he got an investment from an angel investor. They pitched at our event.
4 years later, Venture Connect reached its purpose. The event stopped, but not before paving the way for the next meetups and programs for what was shaping up to be the Romanian startup ecosystem.
And after, I don't know, 3 years or something like that, other similar events started to happen, which was something that we wanted. And I remember that somebody said, look, this organization is copying your event and is doing the same. And I said, that's the idea.
One of the people whose name became synonymous with the Romanian tech and startup ecosystem is Bogdan Iordache, now the general partner of Underline Ventures. Bogdan was one of the first people that created an event that put Romania on the global tech map. One that has today more than 2,000 attendees. How to Web.
I was in Bitdefender at that time. I think it was back in 2015-16. I can't remember exactly. And the company was sponsoring an event called How to Web. Yeah, now we know it. And they asked me, look, Mihai, you go, you please, can you go and mentor some guys? And I said, what's this How to Web? It's an event. It's... You know, but okay, I said, I'm open to experiences. I said, okay, I'll go. And that was really the first time when I was in shock. I discovered this world.
It was early 2000 when Bogdan first heard about the concept of startups.
I don't think we use the term startup, although those were startups indeed. I think it became clear in my head what it means when I started reading Paul Graham's blog, 2006, 2007, something like that, because that was very much like 100% oriented towards the concept of a startup as a high growth company. Back then there were no angel investors, there were obviously no venture funds, and there were no startups. I mean, if you do something like that, that was called a company. Or maybe a small company, but there was the idea of a startup did not existed in anyone's minds.
It took almost a decade for Bogdan to think about starting an event dedicated to the few startups that did exist in Romania at that point. His inspiration for this was again Paul Graham.
We thought Y Combinator is a great idea, and we should do something similar in Romania.
In 2009, How2Web was born with the mission to bring together a network of people with the same interests and, later on, to do a startups program.
In 2009, we had no partners. So we just, the room was free. I think we had like 3 or 4 or 5 maximum speakers from Romania. But what happened is that we got some people coming over from Cluj, from Iași, from Timișoara. So the one in 2010, that was the first proper conference. It was the first startup event, international startup event in Central and Eastern Europe back then. And it was expensive as hell. And it was difficult to get partners aboard. It was difficult to sell tickets. We somehow survived it, I don't know.
How2Web 2023 brought together over 2,500 international participants, 60 global speakers, and an investment prize of 880,000 euros for the best Eastern European startup.
In 2010, Romania and the startup community that was forming got one of its first co-working spaces. It was an initiative led by Vlad Stan, the founder of Seed Money, one of the first pioneers of the ecosystem, alongside Georgescu, Ghena and Talpeș. Bucharest Hub functioned for more than 2 years until it was closed, and Vlad moved on to the first startup accelerator in Romania.
And Bucharest Hub closed in 2012, I think September or October. And Bucharest Hub was a beautiful location with pictures and fresks, and it was just like gorgeous. But it was really hard to make that a viable business, I think. At that point in time, I sort of had a blog, so I published on my blog a post about, who would be interested to join a new hub in Bucharest.
The idea survived the test and eventually found the right place for the hub, in the center of Bucharest, as in a poetic stance, close by to the once headquarters of the US Embassy, the landmark for the startup ecosystem all around the world.
With a very small budget, obviously, and created what we now know to be Tech Hub. But if you'd go to a couple of events, you would understand the network effect that it created.
With Tech Hub, Bogdan and Daniel Dragomir build a home away from home for tech geeks, founders, developers, a place where they could meet one another.
No, I think we had 40 desks. Yeah, 40 desks. And some of those folks were like the founders of Gloria Food, again Mircea from Smart Bill, I think Georgia from Green Horse Games, Minutizer, some others. I mean, yeah, that was a very exciting crowd.
The project of Tech Hub Bucharest still went on for a few more years, even surviving the pandemic, when the hub in London that inspired the model here closed its doors. Nowadays, Tech Hub Bucharest is a closed story, but its mission was fulfilled, the same as Venture Connect. It brought startup founders together.
Impact Hub opened its first hub in 2012. In the aftermath of the financial crisis of 2008-09, businesses in Romania were still struggling. Using their expertise at that time, Oana and Vlad Craioveanu decided to help founders in designing sustainable businesses around their social purpose-driven organization.
We created events, we started running events in cafes, everywhere we could and everywhere we were allowed to make an event.
Like in the case of Tech Hub, coming up with a sustainable business model for a co-working space would be a challenge, and it would take them a year to come up with a concept that would make sense from a financial standpoint.
So we prototyped the thing for a year before we actually decided to go for the full-blown version of a co-working, initially 300 square meters.
They outgrew the 300 square meters soon and moved into a bigger space.
I would say that those were years that our annual revenue was almost doubling every year.
At that point, Oana, Vlad and the Impact Hub team felt that they knew how to build a good co-working space business. So they thought about expanding at a national level. Cluj was the first city on the map, an easy decision considering the fact that it had a strong IT community. They made the step in 2015.
Complete failure. Yeah, complete failure. We had to close the space end of 2017, so 1.5, almost 2 years, let's say, of operating the space. Because one of the things that we didn't understand is that when you scale, you need to make sure that you're ready to scale from a price perspective, especially the conference center didn't work there, so we had to close.
Over the years, Impact Hub grew beyond the co-working space and conference center paradigm and gathered the community of impact founders around projects such as Starterium, an online platform dedicated to entrepreneurs, programs such as Innovators for Children, Clima Accelerator, EIT Food Hub Romania, Empowering Women in Agri-Food, and many more.
If Impact Hub didn't work in Cluj, Cluj Hub appeared in 2012 and still gathers the founders to this day.
In 2012, when the first steps of Cluj Hub were happening, it wasn't very exotic, this discussion. We were, I think, just starting to invest, all of us as professionals, into networking, into connecting with other people next to us, and not solving things in one way in which we've been educated or trained into a job.
Crazy determination, as Cristian calls it, more than a business motivation, stood behind his idea to start Cluj Hub. At a point when, besides Startup Weekend, there weren't too many other events for the startups happening outside Bucharest, he saw the need for a space where the few people with crazy ideas and different ways of thinking could come together.
Founders were no longer working alone in their apartments, in some expensive offices, in coffee shops. Starting from just a handful of people, they paved the way for another type of events and programs, ones aimed at the roots of the future tech entrepreneurs of Romania, the students.
One of the sparks that went on to really ignite the Romanian startup ecosystem was the launch in 2012 of Innovation Labs.
Andrei Pitiș and Răzvan Ruginiș were the initiators of Innovation Labs. Andrei came with the business experience, while Răzvan was the link to the students. Both of them still remember the first ideas that they shared, and which ultimately led to the creation of this program.
I looked at Andrei as my first source of technical inspirations.
I traveled to the US and I saw that many universities have a startups program. So, I got inspired by that.
Although we are not talking about the 90s or the early 2000s, startups were still a subject of novelty for many people.
This was 2012, so nowadays everybody is talking about startups. At that point, startup was a crazy thing to do.
In 2010, I left the company that I was heading back then, that was an American company, to go back to entrepreneurship, to invest in startups initially. And there was almost nothing.
Innovation Labs started as a program that gathered the most talented students from the best technical universities in the country, and the best business and entrepreneurial minds that mentored them and shaped them into the founders that helped grow the local startup ecosystem.
11 years later, the two initiators of Innovation Labs still remember the first edition of the hackathon.
Actually, this was a lesson in bootstrapping, because so we had a very nice location inside of the rectorate building of Polytechnica, which is very, very nice. But 2 days before the hackathon that would go through the night, it was early March, they removed the windows because they wanted to change the window. And we had burners inside the building. Nowadays you cannot do this. And the funny part was, closing to the early hours of the morning, the burners would run out. And people would get closer and closer together to extract the last remains of heat that they could find.
Innovation Labs was also the turning point for the relationship between academia and the business world, and changed the way in which universities collaborate with the companies. Andrei saw the models for this collaboration in the universities abroad.
If you take Stanford, for example, or any other big university from the US, professors encourage students to either go on the, let's say, on a research path, or to maybe go into industry and get a job, or go to a startup.
Nowadays, more and more tech companies invest in labs, have a saying in the curricula, and the universities are more inclined to prepare the future generations for jobs that are actually needed on the market.
At that point, if you want to start a business, you'd have to leave the university. I thought, why do this?
Innovation Labs is the longest running pre-accelerator in Romania, with a university focus and a national footprint dedicated to technology startups. To date, Innovation Labs has supported more than 600 technology startups, recruited from more than 1,400 teams participating in hackathons.
So our expectation was that the program will grow. What we didn't expect necessarily is that this will become like a national program, and it's going to become like the biggest program.
Innovation Labs was also the starting point for the collaboration with corporations. There was less competition and more collaboration between established companies and the startups.
In 2013, started also to look more on the small partners, such as startups, emerging startups in Romania, in the technology fields. And then I started thinking about, okay, why not trying to work and to collaborate also with them.
As an electronics communications graduate of the Polytechnica Bucharest, Cristian Pațachea was always curious about how emerging technologies could shape our life and also transform our architectures. When he discovered the world of tech startups, he saw the potential for partnerships in no time.
We also started to look more on the other type of verticals in which Romanian technology startups were let's say, proposing solutions. And I remember that this was also the moment in which we came across Innovation Labs.
A perfect match, as he sees it now, because at the time when the proposal from the founders of Innovation Labs came, he was in charge with selecting different technology partners for building innovative products for Orange's customers.
And yeah, then the things started slowly to move and to go in the direction that we were we started to support the pre-accelerator program.
For Cristian and for Orange Romania, supporting the teams in the Innovation Labs program sparked the launch in Romania of the Orange Fab program. The company's own accelerator launched in Silicon Valley in 2013 with the mission to help startups create and develop new products that can change the way people connect and communicate.
It was middle of 2017, so 3.5, 4 years was for us enough to decide that, okay, this is the path.
Innovation Labs ignited a whole new entrepreneurial spirit among young people. They are not just technical, they also want to cultivate the entrepreneurial spirit and skills. They want to learn how to tell a story just as good as the Americans do.
So we have to bring the doers that would become the professors. So we have to build an alternative educational system.
The future generation of founders in Romania needed an entrepreneurship academy. And since 2016, they got it.
There is a large need for education in entrepreneurship in Romania, because there is actually none. We are socialist workers more as a personality or a profile. We don't like risk. We don't like to tell the truth. We like to cover our mistakes. We don't like to learn or to say, I'm sorry, tell me how would you do it.
As it is stated in its own manifesto, the Entrepreneurship Academy is built around the needs of the students embarking on the new adventure of their lives, starting, growing, and establishing businesses and projects.
Entrepreneurship Academy has 3 pillars. One is constant learning. The second is practical learning. And thirdly, the pillar that is very important is the teamwork, and how you learn in a team and how you follow but also lead.
But in order to do business together or separately, startups and their founders need money. This is how the investment segment and the money available to startup founders evolved in Romania. Family, friends, and other fools. That's the saying in the startup world. But they are not enough. The local startup world might not have developed up to the level that it is today without the help of angel investors, the VCs, and the co-investment platforms, both from Romania and abroad. In the 90s, the only way that you could fund your business was through a bank loan. But when it comes to startups, going to the bank wasn't an option. After the first tech business people sold their companies, they used the money for new ventures, but also saw means of helping the newer generation of founders.
It was close to zero, the investment environment. I mean, there were a few people. I mean, once Radu, by example, had his exit, he started to invest in some startups.
Malin Ștefănescu graduated in '96 from the Computer Science faculty of the Polytechnica University of Bucharest, specializing in artificial intelligence and graphics. 4 years later, he founded EEU Software, a software developing company working for major Fortune 500 companies. In 2013, he did his first investment as a business angel. He became the president of Tech Angels in 2019, and up until now, he invested in 14 startups, made 2 exits, and led Tech Angels to a continuous growth.
I think there were like 10, 15, something like that. And truth being told, when I took it over in 2019, I think, there were 21 members, I believe.
Tech Angels is a group of private investors interested in supporting the development of tech startups and has 140 members. Investors from the group are entrepreneurs or C-level specialists from multinational companies. One of them is Mihai Guran. Mihai is the CEO and managing partner of Guran Consulting Global, a professional management consulting company for startups.
And then working for another startup, Smart Dreamers. Yeah, it's another famous startup in our ecosystem. I had this board presentation with the results of the consultancy process, and then we went for a beer with the board members. And one of the board members is Malin Ștefănescu, and I told him, look, Malin, if I want to be part of this in a different way, I said, come and join us, and we'll see.
As angel investors, group members provide mentorship and advice to startups selected. There are over 240 startups in the Tech Angels portfolio so far. At the same time, the group's investments in the ecosystem of local startups were about 40 million euros in the last 10 years.
We are heading in 5 years to another 2, 3, 4, 5 unicorns. I can bet on that. But I see even from the startups that I see today, and some of which in which I invested, I see some of these roaring tigers that are going to be unicorns in my view.
For a long time, Catalyst Romania, which serves as an affiliate of 3TS, was the only investment fund active in Romania.
From where I stand, things evolved exponentially in the last decade. Just, to think about that, a little over 10 years ago, there was no venture capital fund in Romania. And now we have not only quite a few funds on various stages, which are Romanian-born.
Catalyst was the fund manager who raised the first Romanian venture fund backed by the Jeremy Romania initiative in 2012. Throughout the years, the fund manager continued to target investments in high-growth sectors, including technology and internet, media and communications, and technology-enabled services.
Now, here in Romania, in 10 years, we went from zero, not necessarily to hero, but to something that is already a vibrant ecosystem where you can, we, for instance, in And the investments that we've done in the first fund, in 10 companies, we have 20 business angel co-investors.
Catalyst Romania is now at its second fund and is supported by Jeremy Holding Fund Romania, an investment program between the EIF and the government of Romania. Marius Ghenea prepares for the future for Catalyst Romania Fund 3. Which
should be even a bigger fund, maybe even wider geographically speaking, but we are keeping the focus obviously on Romania. We're interested in Romania in particular.
The European Investment Fund was the primary source of financing also for the next venture capital funds that appeared in Romania in late 2018. According to the latest Romanian venture report published by the How to Web team, until 2022, EIF in Romania backed 38 private equity and venture capital funds. In turn, these funds invested $840 million in 137 Romanian SMEs and mid-caps.
Dan Mihaescu finished college in the late 90s and jumped into a job in the telecom business. Later on, he got more experience in tech and software. He started with a few angel investments, participated at events, found the right partners, and in 2017, he applied to an EIF program and got most of the budget needed to start Gapminder.
The startups were not having too many options and to get money. So maybe that was a lesson, first lesson we got, like, okay, you have to play it big.
Dan leads investments in B2B platforms enabled by machine learning, automation, AI, cybersecurity, SaaS, and fintech businesses.
What happened was that already in 2016, there was still one active, which is the Catalyst one, but it was towards the end of their investment period, which is usually it's the first 5 years of a fund. So the ecosystem was a bit dry.
Gapminder's portfolio includes over 50 startups funded in the last 5 years. They invest up to 2 million euros in seed funding and up to 6 million euros in follow-on rounds.
You need to be able to sustain the startups longer. We usually get into the startups, we sustain them like 2 rounds. That you can do that only if you have deep enough pockets to invest in successive rounds.
Early Game Venture became active in Romania in January 2019 with the help of the European Investment Fund. Cristian Munteanu, its managing partner, comes into the venture capital world as a former startup founder. Cristian has 15 years of experience in marketing and advertising, working for international brands and coordinating projects in Germany, France, Austria, and the CE countries.
I got hooked, man. I got hooked with startups, and I think it's this building process that fascinates me, and creating value and presenting a vision and being very creative with it and being very ambitious, because startups is not about small applications doing trifles. But I remember 2010, 2013 when startup was not a cool word in Romania. What are you doing, Cristian? Are you quitting your job to do what? A startup? What's that? You know, are you crazy? And I think that at that time, people that were founding startups had a true call. They were genuinely entrepreneurs, founders at core, and they were not flashy. They were not trying to be in the spotlight just to be in the spotlight. Something changed in the years that followed.
If you know his name before the venture capital world, it's because of projects like Qualandra or Scooterson and his experience in startups both in Romania and in Silicon Valley.
A friend of mine, a professor at Columbia University, very involved with startups, just sent me the link to a public call published by the EIF. And I remember perfectly, I was on the balcony, at home on the balcony, looking on the window and just thinking of things. And at that moment I said, damn it, let's do it. The VC fund is still a startup. And then I went to this, once again, very, very difficult and complex process of building a fund manager, and once again navigating the legal system because it's difficult to set up a new fund. And then fundraising, once again. It's much more difficult to fundraise for a fund than for a startup.
Early Game Ventures' investments so far include Druid, Hyperhuman, Kinderpedia or Profluo.
Startups needs time. I told earlier that speed is important. Speed. Okay, doesn't matter how fast you move, because in the end you still need time. You need to adjust, you need to hire. It takes time to hire. I truly believe that in the next 5 years we'll have 2 or 3 unicorns in Romania. And I like to think that all 2 or 3 are in our portfolio.
Probably because I built a lot of products, helps me connect with the struggle that many of the founders have, helps me be very supportive in their endeavor to identify those key elements in the growth of the company, in the adoption of the product.
Alexandru Bogdan has more than 15 years of experience in digital and innovation. With a background in both computer science and economics, Alexandru has held multiple leadership positions that supported him in establishing his own growth hacking consultancy practice. Before joining RocaX, a member of Impetum Group, RocaX is a capital venture fund of 12 million euros, entirely privately owned, which makes investments in disruptive technology startups in the pre-seed and seed phases.
The biggest challenge of Romanian founders, in general, especially in Romania, more of the founders are more technical into background, and against Western Europe, where there are more businesses started by business people searching for technical co-founders. And this is with the good and the bad.
Since its launch until the present moment, the RocaX team has supported a total of 25 startups, of which 10 have already received a financing round.
Cristian Negruțiu and Vlad Andriescu started Sparking Capital with their money and a few other private investors, with a mission to contribute to the development of the local entrepreneurial ecosystem through constant investment, transfer of know-how and skills, coaching and mentoring for the founding teams.
I enjoy all the benefits and the privileges of a high-ranking executive, good salary, good package, company car, you know, that kind of things. And but I remember it was Christmas 2017 when I had one of my regular meetings with a former old friend of mine, old colleague and friend, Vlad Andriescu. And in that friendly gathering at the end of 2017, he was telling me, look, have you noticed something on the startup world? Have you heard about UiPath? I think we had a very good generation of entrepreneurs. 2018, 2019, even 2020. Why? Because they were struggling a lot. They didn't have any opportunity to raise finance, apart from large funds outside, or very small business angels like we are in the meantime, and they managed somehow to survive. And they were eager to raise new investments. Yeah. So the things are gradually moving up. You need to have 100 prospects, from where you get 10% meetings, and you get another 10% or 1% deal close. So
Sparking Capital's portfolio currently includes 12 local startups.
I see things developing. I see also entrepreneurs from countries around us coming to Romania and see the potential here. I see also investors coming from outside Romania.
Early Bird Ventures and Credo Ventures are two of the most active foreign venture capital funds that have seized opportunities in Romania. Founded in 1997, Early Bird has invested in more than 150 companies with over 2 billion euros under management. Dan Lupu joined the Berlin-based venture capital firm in 2012 after being the investment director at Intel Capital in CEE, the investment arm of the Intel giant.
Yeah, there were early startups, there were classified startups, there were social networks. Neogen was still going strong at the time. Okazi was set up, all the group around Okazi was fairly active. I think EMAG was started around that time.
Things evolve in time, even though Dan and the other partners at Early Bird understood that in the early years, the Romanian ecosystem was not that sophisticated and would not bring them a sufficient pool of startups to specialize on verticals.
By that time, in 2012, I joined Early Bird, and we understood that we have to be generalist investors because the markets, while providing some snippets of interesting companies, were not deep enough, meaning that you could not really specialize in specific sectors.
As a partner at Early Bird, Dan was the first investor in robotic process automation provider, Romanian-born unicorn UiPath, now listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
Obviously, I mean, if I would not say that I envisioned that UiPath will become a unicorn or a publicly listed company, or that even Daniel will become the CEO of a publicly listed company. There were a lot of stereotypes. How can a Romanian company compete with a US company? How can somebody from Eastern Europe make it into the global technology market? So a lot of stereotypes. People did not understand because RPA was not a good concept.
Another venture capital firm that went past the challenges of the forming Romanian startup ecosystem was Credo Ventures, a VC fund based in Prague, co-founded by entrepreneur and venture capitalist Andrei Bartoș. For Andrei, another foreign investor that saw the potential of UiPath, Romania entered on his investment radar in the early 2000s.
The idea was simple, like Romania was a European country on track to become the EU member, and there was not much happening there in terms of startups or investments. Like, I really liked the energy. There was not much happening around startups, but there were some people who did interesting things.
It would take several years for Andrei and Credo to make the first move. Brainient, sold in 2016 to Teads, a startup specialized in video advertising, was first on his list in 2012. His second one was UiPath.
Well, I mean, Romania felt like the Czech Republic or Poland just a couple of years behind.
During the last decade, the Romanian capital opportunities for startup founders have become more diverse. Seedblink started in 2019 as an equity crowdfunding platform, a restart from human finance, a digital accelerator initiated by two former bankers, Andrei Dudoiu and Ionuț Pătrăhău.
Now Andrei insisted that technology is the thing, and he was working in the bank until then. He knew more than I knew about the whole environment.
To get the proper financing. And actually that was our discovery journey for the sector. It took us 2 years.
Nowadays, Seedblink is an equity management and tech-specialized venture investment platform that enables European startups in accessing funds, managing and trading equity alongside established institutional investors.
We covered 67% of the whole market in the first year. Now we have good names like Sanopas, Kinderpedia, Code of Talent, Yalok, all kind of names that came to us back then because they didn't have any other solution. And then we went to Europe, and now we have maximum 30% of the companies coming from Romania and 70% from the whole Europe.
We are completing the VC approach.
Along the way, Carmen Sebe and Radu Georgescu joined Seedblink and are building together a platform that continues to modernize the access and trading of private equity for individuals, helping startup founders get funding for their businesses.
Now, I think at least the infrastructure for funding the startups is clearer. You have the players, and startups are somehow having this knowledge where to go, correlated to their maturity phase.
On Seedblink, we don't serve only Romania. We serve Europe.
And in a male-dominated world, Brava Angels appeared. The organization was initiated by Ilinca Păun with a twist. The Angels focus on helping female founders access the capital needed for their startups.
Women are really underrepresented in this sector. Now, I believe a lot in the female ability to build entrepreneurship. I think it's a great match between their capabilities and the success of a startup.
The funding in the CEE region report from 2020, initiated by the European Women in VC, showed that in 2020, startups with all-men founding teams raised 94.2% of capital in Central and Eastern Europe.
I would say that there are not so many female founders, in technology at least. I think there are less than 2%, 3%, so it's a very, very low. It's a very low number in technology. It's not necessarily something that you tell your girl, your daughter, you have to have your own company.
Brava Angels wants to be a stepping stone for women startup founders.
We don't get scared if an entrepreneur in front of me as an investor, if they say, yeah, I'm thinking of having a family, have a baby, but I think I can deal with my startup and also my kids.
Brava appeared 1 year ago to help female entrepreneurs build startups.
Besides Brava, there are other angel communities that support the ecosystem. And they're not just based in Bucharest. For example, the business angel platform from Timișoara, Mocanu, founded in 2018.
We're looking to bridge this gap and somehow to enable investors and to enable new people adding this asset class as investing in tech startups to their portfolio, and we're taking care of the entire process for them.
The Business Angels platform had an increase of over 150% in investments made in 2022 compared to the previous year. The platform currently has 144 members, up over 300% compared to 2021.
We're looking about at 2,000 startups per year. There's usually about 10, 12 of them which end up going above a threshold of 50K that we're looking to invest in them.
Mocanu is especially aimed at investors who have a budget of at least 40,000 euros, over 2 or 3 years experience, and who want to build a portfolio of at least 8 to 10 startups.
Mircea Vădan is the founder of Activize Tech, a company providing advisory for corporates, startups, accelerators, and VC funds on various topics such as startup scouting, innovation programs, and investment.
So I went to a startup weekend, and luckily I was in the winning teams, but all that experience going through creating the product, launching it, getting a few thousand users, monetizing, and then failing as well, and saying that it's not worth pursuing, it was quite a good 3-year adventure.
Alongside his team, the focus of Activize Tech is to keep an overview of the Romanian tech and startup ecosystem and provide help whenever possible. Moreover, his drive to help startups made him active in several tech startup communities.
Back then, failure was not really accepted, so I was among the few who was talking about my failure publicly in presentations and workshops. And we decided to let's create a Facebook group. That group grew in a couple of years to around 3,500 people, and then we also had mastermind groups with startup founders every 2 weeks trying to help each other and give us feedback, and that was amazingly valuable. And then, in the meantime, I founded an organization called Plus Startups, which was supporting the community. Then Transylvania Angels Network, which was groups of angels, business people who wanted to do angel investing in startups but didn't know exactly how, so it was a vehicle for that, which grew quite well in the past 3 years.
While traditional venture capital firms raise capital from limited partners, corporate venture capital firms usually sit within the structure of a large established company. Google Ventures, Intel Capital, Microsoft Ventures, GE Capital are all examples of CVCs. They accounted for more than 18% of the continent's VC deal activity in 2020. This is the case of EMAG Ventures, launched by EMAG, the leading e-commerce player in Romania, at the end of 2020.
We understood how things work, what is working, what is not working. I could stay close to them until one stage to help them grow and integrate in EMAG ecosystem.
The program is dedicated to companies that already have a functional business model and can demonstrate that they have the necessary maturity to bring relevant change in the markets in which they operate.
So you see 100 companies and maybe invest in 2 or 3 companies. We are focused right now in growing the companies where we invest.
Fortec Investments was announced in 2021 also as a CVC. It was created as the investment arm of the Cluj-based Fortec, a software outsourcing company with 20 years of experience on the market. At the end of last year, Fortec was acquired by the Silicon Valley firm Global Logic and Fortec Investments, transformed from a CVC fund to an independent fund, remaining a strategic investor with technical skills and 100% Romanian private capital.
The CVC was the starting point because we were directly connected with Fortec at that time. The idea of having investments which gave us the possibility of understanding even better some domains and having connections in those domains, which gave us the possibility later to create new products for those domains, so new products that were not in our portfolio of investment, and for those products to be able to provide services. Of course, you still have to adhere to the thesis, you still have to have a common agreement with the LPs or the financiers of this fund when deciding on investments, but it gives you flexibility on region, it gives you flexibility on the domains, it gives you flexibility when it comes to the tickets, it gives you flexibility when it comes to the number of investments that you do.
Fortec Investments is a strategic investor and private fund from Romania focused on healthcare, manufacturing, energy, automotive, fintech and proptech. Opportunities, one of the key words for startup founders. And for some, opportunities may come knocking on the door after a long time since first starting. Romania had its first unicorn with UiPath, and also the first Romanian-born company to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We contacted the UiPath team, but they declined to talk to us for this documentary. We will tell their story from the point of view of the people who met them and invested in their growth.
In my wildest dreams, I hoped UiPath might become a unicorn maybe, but that was a wild dream. Daniel, mainly the moving force behind UiPath, but also Marius and the other first 10 people in the team that we invested in. It was their vision, their ability, their clarity of thought that I started feeling that this was special.
UiPath was co-founded by Daniel Dines. In 2006, Daniel was completing a professional cycle at Microsoft in the USA. It was the moment he saw into the future. Automation would definitely mark the way people do their work. To finance the project, Daniel started by offering software consultancy and developed, together with Marius Târcă, an initial product from which a component was successful and was integrated by large companies such as IBM and Microsoft in their own products. The adventure of a lifetime, which Daniel and a handful of fellow programmers started in an apartment on De La Veche Street in Bucharest and carried on until 2012, when things really took off for the RPA business. 2013 was the year in which UiPath gained traction, entering the market with a mature product, an enterprise automation platform that the company today sells to the world's largest corporations.
Yeah, there was more hunger, there was more humility, there was more flexibility. There was more speed because of that. People wanted to prove something that, yes, we can compete.
For 3 years, until 2015, the company fed on its own funds, supported by a positive cash flow. Also then, the business expanded with offices in the US. To support the pace of growth, in August 2015, UiPath accessed a first round of seed investments from Early Bird Venture Capital, Credo Ventures and Seedcamp.
For me, UiPath was the first RPA company that I've seen back then. They had almost 10 years of trying things. It was not a 10-year-old product that struggled in the market. It was a 10-year-old team that struggled a little bit with what exactly they would do.
After successive funding rounds in 2017 and 2018, the company was to become the first official unicorn born in Romania, at a valuation of $1.1 billion.
Daniel has great clarity of thinking, so it's for him, when he describes things or explains things, he's very clear. He's very easy to understand. That's a quality that's very, very valuable. And Daniel is really good at hiring, quick hiring, but also quick firing.
But there are other startups poised to become future unicorns if the market aligns. FintechOS is a fintech company that aims to simplify financial technology and has raised over $100 million in capital so far. A global technology provider for banks and insurers, the company was founded in 2017 by Todor Blidaruș.
The power of investment that banks have in technology is absolutely huge. Largest banks in the universe, the Bank of America, the JP Morgan Chase, and so on, they spend on technology more than $10 billion per year.
Prior to the spin-off, Todor Blidaruș founded in 2006 SoftServe, a company that enables organizations in the insurance and banking industries to accelerate data-driven growth through automation, AI, and software engineering.
Theo's understanding and the people around us that understanding of the financial industry and the technology needs of the financial sector were very broad.
Todor Blidaruș was followed in his endeavor to help financial service providers to start small, think big, build, test, and scale new digital products in weeks rather than in months, by Sergiu Neguț, a reputed entrepreneur, angel investor, speaker, and lecturer.
I realized also that for a company like this to be successful, it had to have proper financing throughout the initial stages at least, in order to reach a certain magnitude where it would be able to sell into larger clients. FintechOS happened to be the first investment in my portfolio, or the first company where I got early enough in the position to be able to join as a co-founder and help build that towards a global kind of success.
In 2023, FintechOS reported an overall revenue growth of 70% year over year. But as is the case with any startup, even if you've raised tens of millions, there are also complicated periods that put the faith of the team, founders, and investors to test. During the last month of 2023, FintechOS reported more layoffs in order to optimize its future. A difficult decision, but for the founders, a necessary one.
The vast majority of IT companies from Romania started as outsourcing companies, do the hard work for others. The market value is around 9 billion euros and grows 3 times faster than the rest of the economy in Romania. Right now, IT represents 7% of the country's GDP.
Qualitans is one of the companies that started in the outsourcing segment in the year that Steve Jobs was revealing to the entire world his revolutionary smartphone.
It's a revolutionary mobile phone.
The decision of its founders, Ioan Iacob and Radu Constantinescu, two geeks from Bucharest that imagined that they can change the world, to start an IT business was partly based on this new and innovative piece of tech that the iPhone was.
Actually seeing the iPhone for the first time was one of the things that really determined us to start a company.
At that point, we were at a stage in our life in which I was finishing the PhD on cybernetics, and Ioan has been involved in projects with several IT companies in the market like Adobe and a US company called Blazons.
Eventually, Qualitans got its first international clients and ended up working for Virgin, IKEA, Ford, or Deutsche Telekom.
It was quite a journey till we managed to go out of Romania. It took us maybe 3 years.
How did they convince the clients? According to Ioan, through putting at their disposal a product solution which is again exponentially better and much easier to scale and much easier to provide a robust offering. Another good thing was the rise of UiPath that helped the entire ecosystem reach new levels.
UiPath completely changed the perception of Romania in terms of VCs, in terms of clients. It was just an absolutely fantastic thing.
After 15 years and with a yearly business of over 17 million euros, Qualitans officially became part of an international technology and innovation consulting and services group operating in 30 countries. Radu continued in the company, whereas Ioan got on a different path.
But bringing value to the world is not just about creating something, it's also about taking it to people and helping them understand how useful it is for them.
He will take to the next level of development FlowXAI, the technology startup initially incubated in Qualitans for almost 10 years, which spun off in 2019 and attracted the largest Series A investment in the history of Central and Eastern European startups in 2023, $35 million, bigger than the one received by UiPath in 2017 of $28.5 million.
The biggest part of value created in Romania in the last, 20, 30 years has been created through entrepreneurial effort.
Polish VC Innovo included Romania for the first time in its report last year, and the partners saw the country as the new tiger of the Central and Eastern European region. Dealroom states that the combined venture capital investment in CEE has doubled since 2020. The region is on track to break its yearly venture capital investment record and raise 6.2 billion euros. Within SEE, Romania and Greece are the leading countries by value creation. Startups in Southeastern Europe have definitely gone from 0 to 1. With a startup ecosystem that has grown in value 50 times in the last decade, this underhyped corner of Europe is among the fastest growing on the continent, is stated in the report launched in November 2022.
In the mid-2013, Mircea Goia, a Romanian developer and filmmaker who currently lives in Phoenix, Arizona, took the task of creating a database of Romanian startups for the whole world to see, romanianstartups.co.
When I thought to make a directory of the Romanian startups I could find and put them like a centralized database of these startups, because at that time when you wanted to find out about Romanian startups, it was quite hard even with Google to find them.
The Romanian startup ecosystem continues to evolve and respond to various economic and market factors. The first half of 2023 witnessed a 42% decrease in the total investment volume. There is a slowing economy, but also a new cycle waiting to happen.
The Romanian Venture Report shows that the largest deals in 2022 involved startups Druid, Digital, Outthink, Beware Labs, Sessions, Bunnyshell, Machinations, Neurolabs, and reached 54 million euros, almost half of all deals by volume.
The How to Web Torch is carried out now by Alexandru Agatine and Monica Zara, who are turning the event into one that brings invaluable connections, brings the community together, and shines a light on exceptional founders.
Although, from afar, How to Web is mainly a conference, which it is. But behind the doors, like in 2 days of the conference, business happens, and we see that, and we see how this helps an ecosystem.
Or as a curious person that you want to go out there and see what are the options that you never had or you never look at. And I think that's something that How to Web has from day one, the fact that it enables the access to resources.
The Innovation Lab's founding fathers, Răzvan Ruginiș and Andrei Pitiș, have also passed on the torch to a new generation that can encourage the young students.
Over 1,300 teams entered the hackathons. 520 teams went on to be mentored, and 188 made it to demo day. Out of them, 61 startups that finished the Innovation Labs program are valued in total at more than 200 million euros.
We actually changed the vocabulary of those people, and we changed their career path
in a way that goes more into leadership and product and leading in general, because they realize that they know now much more than just do the tech and listen to some requirements.
The partnership with innovation labs and the wish to help the teams in the program, as well as the wish to bring fresh solutions in the Orange ecosystem, was a stepping stone for the development of the Orange Fab Accelerator in Romania. The country was the second in Europe to import Fab after France.
We decided, okay, this is the way that we should go on, to adopt the best practices from the Orange Fab program and to implement them with the local resources, using our infrastructure and starting to promote the collaboration with different entities. And this is what we did. We started to do starting from 2017 under the Orange Fab umbrella.
Until now, Orange Fab has purchased products and services worth 2.2 million euros from the startups included in the program, implementing more than 100 projects alongside them. At the end of 2023, 50 startups have been accelerated and helped.
44 startups, 25 from them are more active with us. We have, in this moment, we can say that there were around 90, more than 90 contracts, commercial contracts, which were, reusing their technology or their products. We had to open Orange Fab, let's say, communities in different cities, such as Iași, Cluj-Napoca, Timișoara, Piatra Neamț, of course, Bucharest.
The benefits that startups have of being part of programs such as Orange Fab are noticeable. For instance, Cristian Patachia notes the fact that startups are becoming more mature.
For example, Cyber Edu, a startup that went through Orange Fab in 2021. Cyber Edu began in 2020 as a virtual training ground for the cybersecurity community and hosts competition and cybersecurity workshops dedicated to defending from hackers.
They help us a lot because we are focusing on, at this point, to getting customers, not that interested in financing.
We are the only one in the Orange Fab networks doing this, trying to identify the fastest way to transfer the ideas from the technology proposal of the startup to the business and the product.
In the business of transforming ideas into reality and scaling the propositions made by Romanian startups, among other founders, is also Innovix BCR, a program whose main initiators and ambassadors are Ana Crețu and Ionut Stanimir from the Commercial Bank of Romania, part of the Erste Group. They join forces with Diana and Daniel Dumitrescu from Innovix.
We wanted to build a strategy where to invest significantly and constantly in creating and scaling up independent companies, independent startups capable of using this huge amount of data and virtualized processes and whole businesses with high added value. Or in a more simple words, I think we wanted to hack the bank in a good and sustainable way.
The Innovix BCR program started as an initiative that can provide startups with a platform to grow and scale their businesses. The program includes mentorship, funding, and networking opportunities.
At the moment, we have around 170 accelerated companies, and we did an analysis recently on 50 of them. And all this impressive growth, I would say, is due to the fact that a part of those accelerated startups managed to raise around 43 million euros in equity, local and international.
Since the beginning, Innovix BCR exposed founders to international events such as Startup Grind in Silicon Valley or Select USA, and conferences in London, Barcelona, or even Georgia.
We get them familiar with actually talking to somebody who really takes decision about implementing an integration within the internet banking, or integrating a financial analysis tool for the corporate customers, or integrating something of a solution for the call center.
I think if we really want to strengthen our economy, we need to focus on something which we have started some years ago, but we never completed.
When it comes to open banking, a good example is Finquare, a fintech company started by Cosmin Cosmo. Established in 2018, Supported by Microsoft for Startups and Innovix BCR, the fintech is already a preferred provider for open banking technology for the largest banks in the Central and Eastern Europe.
The way in which we envision the product, the way in which we envision the partnerships, everything changed and is still changing.
And founders that understand the needs of the customers is what the Innovix BCR team is looking for.
And it's worth mentioning, and we realized this after 3 years of Innovix, that actually we are not looking for revolutionary ideas. We just want products who really understand the customer.
The present and the future bring a lot of opportunities for the startup founders that want to grow. Google brought the Silicon Valley Garage approach and put it into Google for Startups, a program that is active also in Romania.
So we position ourselves as someone who is here to help you. Even though you want to develop your skills, even though you want to develop your business, your startup, we are here just to give you the tools and the resources you need in order for you to grow.
Besides having Romanian startups enter the Google accelerators and programs available worldwide, the Romanian team also supports a few of the most important initiatives developed locally for the founders.
We are partners with Techsylvania, How to Web. Again, there are also Accelerator, our main partner. We partnered with them in 2018. Together we have several accelerators that we do together. The launch community also for startup founders. Step Forward, it's another initiative that we support.
A responsibility to help Romanian startup founders feels also Matei Dumitrescu, who is one of the most well-known angel investors in Romania and the initiator of the Commons Excel program. 300 startups went through the cohorts of the accelerator, and over 30 of the alumni have raised more than 45 million euros.
I built this first acceleration program of my own after 6 years of international experience in acceleration and investment. I wanted to help startups and through this to help the entire ecosystem. And my God, I enjoy, it's the best hobby I ever have to work with startups.
The Romanian startup ecosystem started by whispering and now roars while growing. Local communities, once isolated islands, are working together. Founders and operators understood that they must stand united. For some of them, the collaboration with the public environment is useful. In some regions of the country, the public authorities understood that if they want the Romanian economy to develop, they need to help and to partner with the right people that can do the job. Vlad Gliga is the reason why Rubik Hub exists in Piatra Neamț, a small city in the east surrounded by mountains. Rubik Hub is a business incubator but also a co-working space that was created to help early-stage startups from the region. After accumulating relevant professional and personal experience working and studying in Denmark at an MBA focused on impact, Vlad came back to his hometown and decided to build from scratch a startup community.
I just came back from Denmark. I was living in Bucharest, but in that time discussing with the general director of RDA Northeast, we got into a sensitive topic for me. And that was what opportunities do we create for the young generation, especially for them to become entrepreneurs. And it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur, it's about pursuing your dreams. When we are young, we dream to become superheroes and to help other people.
Rubik Hub was launched in Piatra Neamț in May 2017. Their mission was to stimulate the creative and innovative potential of the region.
And coming back to Romania, the situation was similar to when I left Romania, or when I left the region. My pain was severe, and I expressed that. I said, if we don't do something to create opportunities for the young generation to develop themselves here at home, they either leave the country or they will never know what they could do in their life.
Rubik Hub was initiated with the help of ADR Nord-Est, but it was built with an investment of 100,000 euros obtained from sponsorships from companies in the area.
Initially, I looked to how entrepreneurs are behaving in the region, the local entrepreneurs. I compared their actions and their business behavior with the behavior I've seen in US and Denmark. And I realized there is a lot of room for improvement. especially in the mindset of growing, in the mindset of scaling up.
Rubik Hub has helped over 300 founders and has over 200 mentors willing to give back the knowledge they've accumulated. Startups coming through the ranks went on to raise more than 22 million euros in follow-on funding from global investors.
But without public authorities, national, regional, local, without academia and civil society, you cannot succeed in building an ecosystem.
Another community that is benefiting from the help of the regional authorities is Make IT in Oradea, a non-profit organization founded at the initiative of Oradea City Hall, together with the local companies and Orange Romania.
This is a very big problem we have right now. I mean, this distrust from the entrepreneurial to the public sector and vice versa.
The organization's initiatives are built in three directions: to develop entrepreneurial skills and strengthen the startup community, financing and tax facilities for IT companies, and retaining talent by awarding scholarships to pupils and students while integrating them in the local startup community.
Behind the scenes mission is to transform Oradea into a destination for tech founders. That is the goal.
Situated in a triangle between Cluj-Napoca, Timișoara and Budapest, cities that attract larger companies, Oradea is not benefiting so much from the power of having an established tech ecosystem. They saw the advantage in growing the startup community in the city. Oradea has 22 tech startups, 30 tech and business departments in 4 universities, and over $9 million investments in IT companies.
Well, each community stakeholders, because each startup community has some stakeholders, they need to do their part. They need to initiate this dialogue and become part of this dialogue.
For Timișoara, the city where the anti-communist revolution started, Cowork Timișoara has already become a traditional meeting point. It opened its doors in the fall of 2016 as a space to coagulate local startups and feed on the entrepreneurial energy of the locals.
We want to bring together everyone that's part of the ecosystem, be it founders, be it privates, be it the public sector, bring them all together in order to have these synergies between them. So somehow the end goal, if it be to ask some of the key stakeholders in the community, would be we definitely would like to see a few unicorns in a few years.
The efforts of the communities have converged in launching Roța, an association initiated by Cristian Dascălu and Cristina Țoncu, the core team behind Cluj Hub, the accelerator program Techcelerator, with the support of the Gapminder Venture Capital Fund.
Roța came as our contribution to boosting a little bit the increase of number of startups at the base of the pyramid, at the base of the funnel. But we realized that together with all the organizations in the ecosystem, if we don't contribute a little bit lower, we won't have enough number of startups to educate, to work with, and this came as a necessity for the ecosystem.
Roța, the Romanian Tech Startups Association, aims to be an engine of growth and represent the Romanian tech startup ecosystem with a unitary voice.
I think that it should the resources and available for startups in, let's say, about Romania should be balanced in between the cities.
With every passing year, we've moved further and further from just talking about startups in general, and we started to mention verticals and trends.
I remember 7-8 years ago it was about fintech, and then the health tech wave started. Then I saw the trend a little bit slower growing of urban mobility in the past couple of years. Then now it's mental health that will grow. As well, green tech area is slowly piling up. And my bet in the next 5 years, we're going to see vertical growth quite a lot.
Nowadays, it's not just about tech in general, but about fintech, medtech, edutech, cleantech, agritech, pettech, proptech, machine learning, blockchain, and many, many more subjects.
BlindSpot is a startup in advertising based in the US. It hacked the marketing funnel and worked with Snoop Dogg, Rihanna, Airbnb, or American Airlines. It connects 500,000 digital screens in 48 countries. Founded in 2018, BlindSpot offers the opportunity for advertising agencies and brands to run campaigns on digital billboards in cities.
And we wanted to promote it on a billboard. So we talked to the landlord, and the landlord told us, oh, you can't just buy a few hours. And then we started researching the market, and we realized, hey, this is an actual huge opportunity. For me, it was very similar to what Google did with Google AdSense back in the day.
Brightspaces is a Romanian proptech startup that has raised 2 rounds of investment from both local and foreign investment funds and angel investors, and launched several customized digital leasing platforms for its customers from Romania and Great Britain.
Because this is how we see the future of real estate tech. It will be an ecosystem of features and solutions that work together seamlessly, and Brightspaces with our 3D digital twin platform can be embedded into a lot of other things, not just leasing.
Data-driven decisions are part of a future of certainty, and Romanian big data startup Veridion can become the single source of truth for business leaders that could save them hours of research. Veridion uses machine learning to create global databases about companies in all industries.
What we really cared about is that we do something that's a technological breakthrough, something that other people don't make. We didn't want it to... we had no interest in being like the Romanian version of something that already exists in London.
Kinderpedia is an edtech startup that wants to be the digital solution for school management and communication. A startup used by schools and kindergartens in 25 countries, Kinderpedia debuted on the US market.
The time we started, that would be around 2013 for the idea. We were noticing the huge gap between schools and nurseries on one side and families on the other. And this is what motivated us, to see that people who are willing to do their best to help children grow and improve their learning were helpless because they didn't have the tools to do it properly.
Jobful offers a solution of online recruitment and started based on the assumption that recruitment works according to outdated rules and trading of resumes. Jobful's mission is to provide an interactive way to connect talent with opportunities.
In 2020, few organizations were looking for candidates. Why wouldn't we go for a SaaS approach and implement it dedicatedly for different organizations? Now we're opening new markets. Now we have our very first Fortune 500 customer.
K-Factory is a process automation platform focused on increasing operational performance for manufacturing companies of all sizes and in all sectors. The Romanian startup is at the frontier of digitization in manufacturing, bringing Industry 4.0 technology within the reach of enterprises.
We discovered that manufacturing is a very undigitalized industry, the most undigitalized industry around the world. And we have started to look at the opportunities, at the problems that manufacturing companies are facing, and we discovered that we have a big opportunity in front of us.
Planable is a collaborative platform for any type of content. At first, a social media management tool where agencies and brands could elaborate more easily, right now the strategic direction for Planable is what is called universal content, where the product can be used for collaboration on any document and content, sort of like Google Docs or Figma for content.
Planning and collaborating on content for marketing and on content for social media was a really messy process. So I stumbled on this problem. I found my co-founders that were also struggling with the same issue, or they were familiar with this problem from the agencies that they've been working in.
Planable is a startup that may seem strange in the local ecosystem. It's profitable since it reached break-even 3 years ago. It took only one seed investment in 2019 from Gapminder and Angular Ventures, along with several business angels. And it's grown so much that it's a profitable company with 4,000 customers.
We were, one of the first startups that went through accelerators in Romania, and one of the first Romanian startups that went to Techstars and, accelerators of the caliber of Techstars. So the biggest thing for us was like mentality and really switching gears from what is possible, what can be built, and really, adjusting our mentality to thinking 10x.
Hyperhuman is not Bogdan Predușca's first startup. In 2014, he was living the American dream after he had gotten from zero to an evaluation of over $4 million for GetFitter, a platform that connected users with hand-picked health coaches. He was living the startup movie in the US, but this American dream was cut short. After a little more than a year, GetFitter closed.
I remember there was no honeymoon, there was no the Elon Musk story. There was actually, I remember only sleeping a few hours per night, almost always figuring out how to pay salaries, the next bills, the next thing, trying to find new clients. So it wasn't that was a fun part.
Hyperhuman is the AI-powered video content creation and delivery platform made for the health and fitness industry and allows trainers to create studio-quality video workouts in minutes.
Hyperhuman is the result of the pandemic changes, revolution in some industries, and it was born April 2020, so right at the end of a lockdown.
Sebastian Gabor and Ruxandra Pui, the two co-founders of Digitail, raised $11 million from Atomico. Impressive because Digitail is targeting a niche market, that of veterinarian practices. Clinics can digitize the administrative tasks and can better schedule, manage personnel or financial documents.
And we found out later, like this year, is the year where the average age of a vet technician is lower than the average age of the legacy old PIMS, the practice management systems that they're using in practices. So an average vet tech is 32 years old, an average practice management system is 33.
Digitail reduces the administrative burden by 40 to 60%, the equivalent to around 3 days per month of admin at a typical vet clinic in the US.
I think we had a global ambition from day one, but it was the early adopters that were willing to give it a try and to use it even in English. And some of these early clients actually translated the platform, and this is how we ended up to have multiple languages, which was great.
During these years, social impact and sustainable startups became mainstream. And Ciprian Stănescu, the founder of Social Innovation Solutions, an organization whose mission is to understand future transformations and to develop sustainable tech, policy, and entrepreneurial solutions, is at the center of the topic of sustainability of startups that are building for a durable future.
I think now we're in the impact sort of era in which these social impact businesses or businesses with a social impact, which is two different things, are sort of beginning to show that you can actually really have a return on investment that is measurable, clear, defined, and big or bigger than traditional businesses. I want to make what I make also to have an impact. Everyone will actually have an impact component.
The incubators and transformation programs that Social Innovation Solutions is coordinating are supporting hundreds of entrepreneurs in Central and Eastern Europe to develop tech and non-tech solutions, to understand sustainable business-making practices, and to receive investment, mentorship, and a strong network for the future.
And for me, sustainability is like digitalization about 20 years ago.
What do startups do when they grow up? They move from the country where they were founded to new horizons.
Last year, 17% of CEE startups which received over 1 million euros in funding moved. Favorite destinations: the east and west coast of the US and London. From Romania, 65% of startups that are in the scaling phase go to other countries. Among the relocated startups, UiPath is the unicorn in Romania that still has 30% of its team here.
But there are Romanian-born entrepreneurs that chose to build startups directly outside our borders. Madalina Seghete is one of them. She was born in Bacău, and before moving to the US, Madalina lived and studied in Bucharest. She went on to the US to study computer engineering at Cornell University. After graduation, she did her master's in management science and engineering at Stanford.
And I think senior year in college, I took an entrepreneurship course, but it felt more like a game. Like, oh, I'm just doing this course, but it's not like I will ever start a company. And then, you know, my visa got denied. So I ended up having to either leave the US or go to school. So I think going to Stanford, had I gone to a different master's, probably I would be on a very different path. But I think Stanford is extremely entrepreneurial.
Branch, the startup she co-founded in 2014 alongside Alex Austin, Dimitri Gaskin and Mike Molinet, provides cross-platform linking and attribution.
So I think those early customers, it was all based on like the fact that we had gone to Stanford and we were, you know, from good schools and we worked for good companies. Like
after securing a $300 million investment in 2022, Branch is now valued at around $4 billion.
Branch it's a hard sell. It's a complicated sell. You need a lot of customer support. I would say there was grit. Like we had so much grit and we just worked so hard. I think it had its own toll on our mental health, and it wasn't like easy.
Since 2014, Branch has grown to over 500 employees and 16 offices around the globe and has been used by more than 100,000 mobile brands. But for Madalina, at the end of this year will be the end of her career in Branch.
You build a company and in the early days it's your baby. And then, you know, you hire new executives and the child grows up. It has a mind of its own, and, you know, I think it's time for a new journey.
So, what's next for the Romanian startup ecosystem? How will it evolve during the next few years? What will it look like? What's Romania's purpose in the startup ecosystems around the world? What will startups bring for the region? The questions are still open, and so are the answers.
Romanian startups are thriving. There's more and more interesting stuff happening. So I am very optimistic and bullish.
We have to look in all four corners: education, funding, a very positive environment for starting a startup, and of course, number 4, reaching out to the world.
If I'm talking about a specific technology, which I want to bet in the 5 years, is artificial intelligence, which should be used in order to transform people's lives.
Good and bad, okay, highs and lows, in the sense that, let's say, we had the opportunity to slowly learn. They don't have that. Yeah, it's more, let's say, for companies like us, or for, I should say, pools of knowledge, like be defenders, to jump into the market and try to help the new companies.
Romania is the second largest market in CEE after Poland. So I think that we have the good premises in the region to become one of the most important players, and we already are one of the most important players. But I would say that the deep tech companies and the most ambitious startups, they are looking at the global markets from day one.
It would have been great to have this wave happen 5 years before, simply for the reason of how cost efficient it is to build the first iterations of the product. So maybe in that regard we missed some steps, and there's a collateral damage that happens from having a culture mostly of outsourcing and services rather than startups.
Now we are making you an entrepreneur. Maybe you become a billionaire, millionaire, and so on. Now it's cool, but imagine how cool it is to be in an article online and give the link on WhatsApp to your grandma. I mean, that's amazing.
I will start with an answer, and like in Jeopardy, I will ask the question at the end. So I believe the answer is that we are on a path in Romania of a mindset change towards entrepreneurship. This has to be encouraged. This really has to be encouraged, and this should be encouraged through some formal education within middle school and perhaps high school. What should happen in a structured way in order to produce more unicorns in 10 years' time? So that's the question. So my answer would be start toying with projects that could look like entrepreneurship in middle school and in high school. And I'm not talking about pitches and incubators or stuff like this. No, have people sell lemonade and have people imagine how to extract value for something and sell it, which is the hardest part, not extracting value, but selling it to a customer at some point, and they will fall in love with it. And we will increase the chance to have more unicorns in 10 years' time.